Good morning. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the July 22nd edition of the Intuit Developer Friday Morning Hangout. I'm your host, David Leary. I am the Intuit Small Business Ecosystem Evangelist. You can follow me on Twitter at David Leary. You can follow Intuit Developer at Intuit Dev. Today we have a very, very special day. It's a very, very long time coming. Webhooks for QuickBooks Online is finally released and live this week. We have the product manager, Vishal, who's going to be here to introduce the feature, handle any questions, and then we actually, as backup, we brought the two engineers that have been working on the webhooks for the QuickBooks Online API, Arun and Joe. They'll also be with us today. Before we jump in, I just want to remind everybody that we still are not at the deadline yet for the Small Business App Showdown. So if you have an app, you're basically done. Get it submitted, get through the tech review, get through your security review, get onto apps.com so you can participate in the Small Business App Showdown. That closes down I think August 15th or August 14th. It actually says, if you look in the rules on the website, the exact date. You want to make sure you get your app involved in that, because what we're going to do is we're going to take the top 10 apps in that contest, bring them to QuickBooks Connect in October, where they'll be able to pitch and compete for a $100,000 grand prize. So definitely make sure you're hitting that website, smallbusinessappshowdown.com, and I'll also get that shared in the showcase links right now. I'm just going to flip over and get the URL shared here for everybody. And as always, all the events going forward, or any events we're going to do in person or the Hangouts, they can always be found on the events page on the hub. So it's developer.intuit.com/hub/events, and you can always access all of those there. I'm going to go flip over to my camera here and then get Vishal invited. So I lost my Hangout. 1 second. There we go. Much better. And Vishal, if you want to introduce yourself, I'll let you jump in and start telling us about webhooks.
Thank you, David. Hi, everyone. So I'm Vishal Aggarwal, and as David said, I'm a product manager in the Intuit Developer group, and really, really excited to talk about webhooks today. So, let's start with what does webhooks mean? I mean, why is it important? And think of webhooks as like a push pattern instead of a pull pattern. So let me quickly share my screen, and let me quickly go through this couple of slides that I have. Can you guys see my slides?
You're not sharing yet, Vishal.
All right, entire screen and share.
Yes.
Okay. How about now?
Yes.
Awesome.
There we go. Perfect.
So what is webhooks? It's a pattern of enabling user-defined callbacks in web applications. It's basically, think of this scenario, a problem statement that most of you guys have. I want to keep overlapping data between my app and QuickBooks Online in sync. That is the most common integration pattern that our developers have today, basically. So, how do you solve for this problem today? We have the CDC API today on QBO. You as an app developer, you poll, did something change? No. Did something change? No. Then a user comes in, he changes something within QBO. You ask them, did something change? And the CDC API says, yes, this data changed. So basically, if you think about it, 2 out of 3 calls were not required. It's basically a continuous poll mechanism, which not only increases the load on your servers, it also increases load on our servers, where you're continuously polling and utilizing the resources. So how does webhook solve the problem? Let's solve for the problem using webhooks, right? So you as an app developer, we have webhooks now. How would it work? You as an app developer will come to webhooks and say, hey, this is my URL, this is my endpoint, these are the entities I'm interested in, let me know if something changes. And we say, fine, let us listen for the events and filter it out accordingly for you. A user comes in and changes data. At that moment, we do a call back to you saying, hey, something changed. So as you can see, it's a push mechanism instead of polling, where you can just register your URL with us. You can say which entities you are interested in, and then we would call back on that endpoint whenever any data changes there. So at a very simplistic level, this is what webhooks is all about. Um, I will now dive
If you go
into.
back, Vishal, if you go
Sure.
back to the previous slide.
Yep.
So this is, yeah, with this model. So I think with that model, that it actually, you may kind of seem like, oh, it's 2 or 3 calls, but the reality is, like, a developer might be doing that every 5 minutes, so it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of calls. Is that correct?
Exactly. So basically, it depends on the polling mechanism or the polling time that the developer has set up. So it could be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, every day. It depends on the developer's use case, but yes, at times it really overwhelms the system as well if you're doing it every 5 to 10 minutes, and that is for each and every company that is connected with your app. So it's just not for one company; it's across all the companies. So if you extrapolate that, it is a very, very big number.
Got it, got it. Perfect. Yeah, I just want to make sure we understood that it wasn't so simple as 3 calls, right? It's thousands, if not millions, of unnecessary calls.
Yep. Today it's hundreds of thousands of calls. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So with that, I'll actually dive directly into our how Webhooks works today with QuickBooks Online platform. I'm pretty sure most of you guys already know about our GitHub repository, github.com/Intuit Developer, and we just released 3 sample apps across different languages for you to use. So let's just start with the Java one, right? So if we talk about the requirements for the sample app, you need Java 1.8, developer.intuit.account, an app over there, the SDK which is already included in this sample, and sandbox companies that you get when you sign up for your developer account. So the first thing we need to do, as you know, is to get endpoint running on our side, which will receive the callbacks from QuickBooks. So if we talk about the endpoint, the first thing is getting ngrok. So ngrok is it's a simple client that gives you a public URL on which you can actually receive callback messages. So I have already downloaded ngrok, and it's simple, it's free, and you just download it, and you go on your console and just type /ngrok http 8080, and that will basically
And,
open up the.
and Vishal, that is a service provided by somebody else, correct? That is not
Yes.
a service
Yes.
provided by Intuit. So the developer would have to, does the developer have to set up an account and things like that, or can they just instantly get that URL?
Can you say that, David? You broke up.
Like what kind of, so if the developer goes out to that site for the ngrok, do they have to fill out a bunch of information, or they just go
No.
there, download it, it's open source? Can you give a little background, or kind of for people that maybe aren't familiar with ngrok, kind of what?
Yeah. So basically, you just hit download, you select your client, and that's it. You unzip it, and basically once you unzip it, you go into the folder where you unzipped the ngrok, and you just type in the command after that /ngrok http 8080. And if you look here, now you have 2 public endpoints, one on HTTP, one on HTTPS, that you can use to send HTTP requests. So that's it. It's simple, straightforward, and easy to work with. So once you have that, you go ahead and clone the repo into your local machine using git clone, and then the URL, this URL, and get the whole sample app on your local machine. After you have done that, basically you go and fill in the application.properties. So let me bring up the application.properties. So I've already cloned the GitHub repo, and you bring up your application.properties file, which is under source, resources, and application.properties. Once you have this, basically you fill in the app token, consumer key, and consumer secret by copying over from the key section of your app. So I'm in my app section within the developer portal. So, developer.intuit.com, you log in, you go to your my app section. I have this app called Webhook sample. Under development, if you go to settings, or first you go to keys, you copy your app token, your consumer key, your consumer secret, and basically paste it over here. Once you have pasted this, the qbo.url is already filled in for sandbox environment. Then what you do is you get your access token and access secret for the company, QuickBooks company that you are attaching to. So in this scenario, I've already attached my QuickBooks company to this app, and I already have my access token and access secret and the company ID. The subscribe entities, right now I'm saying customer, vendor, and invoice in this sample app. And I'm only working with one sandbox company, but if you want to work with the other sandbox company, you can have up to 5 sandbox companies, so you can actually have the sample app work with 2 companies. Once you have that, then you go back to the developer portal, you go to the settings tab. In here you see the webhook section, right? So in the webhook section, you add your endpoint URL. The endpoint URL over here is basically this URL that we just got from ngrok, and the sample app is listening on /webhooks endpoint within the sample app. So this URL could be any URL that you are working towards. You select the entities. I've selected all the entities that I want to work with. You copy you hit save. Once you hit save, you can do show token and then copy this token and basically go ahead and paste it in here. So that's it from a setup perspective. Once you have done all of this, you are all good to go. What you do then is you go to the repo in which you have the sample app, and you hit Gradle W boot run. So basically at this moment, the sample app would build and it would start running. Just give it a moment here. And now the sample app is now running. So now we are all set. Basically, we have an endpoint that is listening to events from QBO. We have set up in the developer portal the entities that we are interested in, and the sample app is now running. So now let's go to the QuickBooks Online company. I can actually go it from here. And this is the company I connected the app to. So I click go to company. Let me go ahead and create a new customer. Actually, it went to the wrong cup. Oops, sorry. Let's try this again. I got logged out. Let me just log back in here. By mistake, I logged out.
And Vishal, while you're logging in, all these links and all these places you're going, they're all listed in the blog post, correct?
That is correct. So the sample app has everything as well, running the code, configuring the endpoint, and also it explains the whole project structure. So everything is there in the blog post as well as the developer guide.
So any of you that are trying to frantically write down URLs, I did share in the showcase the link to the blog post. And if you can't find the showcase or you're struggling to find that, you can just go to developer.intuit.com/hub. This is right there on the main landing page.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you that are not in the Hangout and you're just watching, I will be opening, going to the Q&A panel and asking Vishal some of the questions you guys are coming in. I do see some questions coming in now. So when Vishal's done with his demo, I'll definitely jump out and get those questions.
So now, yeah. So now I'm in the company that I've attached to the sample app, and the sample app is listening for customers. So let me go ahead and create a new customer here, Arun A, and basically let me create one more customer here. So what we have done now is we have created two customers, and basically the message is aggregated over a 5-minute period. So once you configure an endpoint within the portal, you will receive messages, all the change notifications for a given company aggregated over a 5-minute period. So basically you receive the notifications for everything in 5 minutes interval. We have gone with the 5-minute interval as compared to almost near real time, so that we are not affecting the scalability of your app. In future, we will be working towards where you can actually configure the aggregation time period that you want for for the callback events. So that is something that will come in the future.
Hey, Vishal, has there been thought just for the sandbox only having that kick off every 30 seconds or every minute? So that way if a developer's doing work, they can actually see if it's working or not without waiting 5 minutes, fixing some code, waiting 5 more minutes. Like in the sandbox only, I get in production, yes, 5 minutes, but for the developers that are trying to code,
as you can see, my engineers are smiling, I'm smiling. The thing is, we did discuss this, and definitely that is something that we will be supporting in the near future.
Awesome, cool. You guys are a step ahead of the rest of us. Good.
We are just getting started on Webhook, so. So we are just waiting for the callback event to come, and I do want to call out one more thing with NGRock is if you go to this URL, you would actually see the endpoints, and you can actually listen to see what's going on here. And once we see, so here we go, basically I did a get, and it shows me the what hit that endpoint and what is going on. So once we get a post message, it will show up here as well, so that can help you debug certain things as well. So at this moment,
Just 1 more minute left.
Just 1 more minute, and we should be receiving.
So we did get a question in from the Q&A panel, and if you could actually possibly clarify a little bit on that. You're asking, is it compulsory to use the SDK?
No. No. So no, it's not compulsory to use the SDK. It is just for the sample app. The sample app basically explains it end to end in terms of okay, you get the message, what should you do with the message, and then getting that change notification from QuickBooks Online using the API. So for that we use the SDK, but anything you want to do with the webhooks or with QuickBooks Online API, you don't need to use the SDK. The SDK is just there to help you. So,
perfect. Thank you.
As you can see, we received the request, and basically we did a CDC callback and got the new data. So now if I go to the NGRock, you can see this is the post that happened, and we created two customers, Operation Create ID 82, Operation Create ID 83 on the entity customer, and this is the realm ID that we had configured in our application.properties file as well. So as you can see, this is basically the whole end-to-end flow with respect to webhooks. If I just wanna simplify it, right? If I wanna list out the steps, the first thing you do is you configure an endpoint on your app where you're gonna receive the event. Once you have configured the your endpoint, you take that endpoint, you go to our developer portal, the app that you are interested in, you go to the settings tab, you put in that URL, you basically check the endpoints that you are interested in, and the associated operations, and then you hit save, you take the verify token, you write up some piece of code to make sure that you are basically checking for the verify token and the headers, and that's it. You're all set anytime. And also make sure that your app is connected to the companies so that you are receiving the events for those companies, and that's it. You should be all good to go. The other thing I want to call out is the development. In the development settings tab, the Webhooks only works with sandbox companies, and it's primarily to help you, for your development as well as for your debugging. Once you go to production, I don't have the production, but in the production tab also you will see the settings tab. You will have to explicitly go and set up your endpoint there and select the entities again and use the verify token again from there when you go in production, and that will work with your production company. So, basically with that, I think this should help you, get a high-level overview on how the whole Webhooks works end to end, and I'm open for questions.
Yeah, Vishal, just before we jump into some of these questions, obviously you listed the entities we could watch, right? Does it watch like linked entities? So if I have an invoice and I want to know when that invoice has been paid, will I be able to subscribe and see that? Because obviously the payment's being entered in, but I don't really care. I just care when that invoice has been flipped to paid.
Right. So what would happen when the invoice gets paid, David, is the invoice will get updated, right? So the invoice will get updated. So what you would technically do at that moment is, let me share my screen again. What you would do at that point is in the developer portal, when you're selecting your entities, you would say, invoice, and either you can select everything or you can just select update. So, and then you would get an update callback. Once you get the update callback, you as a developer would have to see, okay, what really changed. But David, I do want to call out one thing. In future, not in the near future, but in future, we would add more concrete functionalities where you can literally say that, okay, send me a webhook only when the invoice is paid, or send me a webhook when my inventory is low and things like that. So that is coming in future.
So the triggers will get deeper and deeper as we move on. Okay, that's great to know. So one more question from the Q&A panel that came in. I'll read that question out, and then for those of you that are actually in the Hangout, after this question, I'll let you guys unmute and ask Vishal, Joe, and Arun any questions you guys have. I know that this has been a very, very popular feature. It's one of the most requested features. We've been talking about it for 2.5 years, so it's kind of amazing that it's finally here. So I know there's lots of questions. So this one seems pretty straightforward, Vishal. They want to know if they can use OAuth 2 as a normal fetching data and implement webhooks.
Sorry, David, can you?
Okay. So the question is, so can we use OAuth 2 as a normal fetching data and implementing webhooks?
Can we use OAuth 2 as?
Actually, OAuth is for calling us, and we could right now we have a simple authentication, but if the customer or your application authentication is OAuth 2, we need to make those changes. But today it is a simple authentication. We expect the services are behind HTTPS, and we expect the token as the signature is the main thing. But we will introduce more authentication mechanism, including the client certificate-based authentication system in the future.
Okay. I didn't get the question.
Any of you inside the Hangout that are here now, please definitely jump in and ask a question.
Hi, this is Jack from ATEX. Is there anything that we can't get an event on? Is there any type of limitation on either the list item or the transaction type?
Um, did you get the question? Can you repeat the question? Sorry, I think we are having some network problems.
Yes. Is there any limit on any particular list or transaction type that we cannot get a event notification back on?
So basically today, if you notice, we have a subset of, let me share my screen again. Today we only support a subset of web QBO entities, and basically we feel that this covers the most generic requirements. But however, if you feel that there is any QBO entity missing from this list, please do let us know, and we'll be more than happy to add more entities to this list. So what we have done for this first release is we have gone with a subset of the most common entities. If you feel there's an entity missing here, please do let us know.
Okay. Okay. I don't see purchase orders, right?
Yep.
No. Okay. Okay. That's purchase, but does that include purchase orders?
That is a separate entity, so no, but definitely we can add that.
Okay. Another question. So we just get notified that something has changed, but we still have to go out and pull the actual data.
Yes, that is correct. So we do not send out the full so what our recommendation is that once you get the message for that realm, basically go make a CDC call for that realm and get all the data for that realm that has changed since the last updated time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, we do list all of that out in the sample app documentation as well. So please do check out this as well as our the developer guide that we have. Explains all of this in detail. So and feel free to post in our forums if you have any further questions or anything.
Hey, Vishal, just looking at the list. Is this only going to be entities that the end user changes in the UI? You might have to adjust your volume there. Or is it, let's say I'm a payroll app, right? And I know you don't have timesheets there, but just thinking out loud. So I'm a payroll app, and I want to know when new timesheets have been created. So if another developer of timesheet app sends timesheets and they create the timesheets, is this going to still trigger the webhooks if another app did the create or the edit or the update to the transaction? Will that still trigger the webhooks, or is only transactions that are touched in the UI?
No, it would happen anything through the UI or through the API. So any changes happening to the data through the if another app for a given realm creates a customer, then that notification will be sent to whichever app is connected to that realm and is looking for a webhook for that entity. So it is through any changes through the API or through the UI.
Got it. Great. Matt Reiser, I think you're trying to talk, but we don't hear anything. Nothing. Hey, Matt Gritters, do you have any questions? Or Brianne? I'm just going to ping in the QA panel here again. Hey, Joe, you as the engineer, is there any tips or watch outs or I imagine in general you probably learned way more about webhooks in general that you ever wanted to know about. Is there anything some piece of learning about webhooks that you now have as far as knowledge that you didn't know before you started the project?
Can they hear me?
You can come in.
Yep.
I mean, not really. I had a good idea about webhooks because I've used them in other platforms before. Particularly, I'm sure lots of guys know about GitHub's webhooks to trigger off Jenkins jobs. So I had used webhooks before in that context. So I didn't really learn too much. It was more mainly just learning about the inner workings of our systems in terms of how we publish events and all that stuff. Because all we're really doing, right, is we're just saying, we'll listen to these events, and depending on whether or not you're interested in them, we're going to aggregate and post them out to you. So I didn't really learn anything too much. It wasn't any surprises in that sense. It's just really providing a way that what's already out there on a lot of other platforms to be notified rather than having to constantly do these polling mechanisms. So I think other than that, everything was pretty smooth.
Great, thank you. Hey, it looks like Matt was able to type in a question, so I'll read that out, Vishal. Matt wants to know, does that get notified of changes that your own app made?
Yeah, you would. So you would get any data that has changed that you're listening for. So even if your app made a change to a customer or created a new customer, we will send you that event. So I mean, basically, we are making sure that any app that is connected to the realm gets data, any data changes they are interested in for that realm. And I think actually, yeah. So that is a good actually gotcha. Because you will end up getting that data callback. So it might be a good idea to check the IDs and make sure that you're not getting that data again. Or actually, it might not be a bad idea to just go and get that data and update your database with the new data. There might be new fields in there or anything like that.
This is kind of interesting because I could see this opening the door to new apps. Just this kind of concept of listening, right? Obviously, there's an audit trail in QBO, right? Yeah. But I definitely know there's accountants, they have clients, and they, sometimes the clients get in there and touch things, and the accountant doesn't know until months and months later, right? Like, what did you do that for? But yeah, it'd be interesting. There could almost be a whole new batch of apps out there they're kind of targeted at accountants where, hey, you can watch if your client puts in any checks, because
Yeah.
As soon as the client puts a check into QBO, you now, the accountant, have notification of that. So this is pretty interesting, this concept of like Webhooks now can actually be like an audit trail creator in an interesting way. We don't have every transaction or entity there yet, but it's kind of an interesting, we're opening the door to kind of a new concept of apps and new functionality that could exist because of this.
David, you just gave an idea for the hackathon for QVC.
Yes. Somebody could build that, pump that out for sure. Because I know there are a lot of accountants, they want they want to know these things, right? When somebody goes in and touches their apps, so it's really.
Absolutely. I mean, the boundaries are limitless. I think with Webhooks. I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing how developers can really extend basically extend their integration and enable new use cases using Webhooks. I mean, it's just limitless.
Okay. Matt had a little clarification also on the right now, as you said before, it's every 5 minutes. Is there plans to do it, as soon as save is clicked, or how real time? Like, do you envision that down the road eventually being real time, or is this just a volume support server load type issue?
Yeah, so what we are planning and we have in the roadmap is, you can actually configure what time frame you want events to be aggregated in. So, you wanted 5 seconds, we'll aggregate it for 5 seconds. You want it for 5 minutes, we'll aggregate it for 5 minutes. You want to aggregate for 10 minutes. So right now we have made a generic rule for everyone, but in future you can change the aggregation logic based on your app's needs.
Have you thought about adding the source of the change? Like, I might be only interested in things that have been updated by somebody on a UI, not in somebody importing 1,000 transactions. I might want to extend the UI experience that way. So, go ahead.
That's a very good use case, and to be honest, we have not thought about that yet, but definitely this is something that I'll discuss with the team and put it up on the roadmap. I mean, as I said, the amount of now that we have this base that is strong and fully functioning, the amount of things that we can do on top of this is just limitless. And as we move along in this journey, the goal is to add more rules and more features like you just asked for. So definitely, thank you for the feedback, and we'll add it to the roadmap.
Yeah, going back to that, to kind of go back to that audit trail, I know a lot of accountants have given feedback. Like the audit trail just says whoever authorized an app. It doesn't say what app put the data in, right? And so
Yeah.
I think like it's really interesting to start thinking about this. Like if you probably talk, if you go, you really, Vishal, you should probably sit down and brainstorm and talk to the product managers at QBO that are working on audit trail, because I think there's a lot of overlap between this. The ability to see those real-time audits and see accurate audits, and then as that audit trail gets more robust in QBO, if you can use those types of things as triggers, like Jack said, a specific user. Maybe you just want to watch one person, what they do in QBO and what they've changed in it. So it's really, really interesting. Or if an app changed the data, it's really, really cool.
Yep.
Brianne, did you have any questions, or Matthew Fulton? I'll take that as an, oh, Matthew just unmuted. Maybe he has one he's going to throw out here.
I was actually just, this is Matthew real quick, I was just going to try to add on, I love the idea with the audit trail. It would be extremely useful for us in our practice to be able to see when people are getting in and messing with anything or inputting any information. I really hope this comes out.
Awesome.
Brianne said she's eating lunch, so she's probably not going to talk. So that's all right. Thanks, Brianne. We did get another question in from the Q&A panel. Actually, it looks like just a comment in general. Shayla says she doesn't think that we can hear her. Yes, it's correct. Right now, you're not in the Hangout. You're just watching it, and so you have to use the Q&A panel to ask the questions on the left. So in the same panel, you just type that comment in. Please ask a question there, and we can definitely get to it.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
I do want to call out one more thing. Basically,
yes.
this is to as you know, in QBO there is this concept of where you can merge two customers or merge certain entities. So we do support a merge event as well, and the merge event, what it does is basically it will give you the callback, and in the callback, if you look at this, right, the operation would be merge, and there would be another variable parameter named deleted ID, and that deleted ID would be the ID of the customer or the employee that got merged, and this ID is the ID of the customer or employee into which the one that's living, basically the one that got merged into. So that was one of the initial feedback we got from our developers, was that they wanted the support for merge, and I want to call out that we do support merge for the entities that have the merge functionality.
Vishal, that merge notification is happening today. Like that's in the API now today.
Yes.
That watcher. Okay, got it.
Actually, I just realized I was not sharing my screen. So why don't I just quickly share my screen so that I can explain what I meant. So what would happen is basically we do support merge as a operation within the entities that support merge. So let's see, vendor, employee, customer. These entities support merge. Invoice doesn't have the concept of merge. So basically what would happen is, in the merge event, when you get the merge event, in the notification, you would see the operation to be merged, and then you would see a deleted ID as another field. And that deleted ID is the ID of the customer or the employee that got deleted, and this ID is the ID of the customer or employee or vendor in which it got merged to. So, I just wanted to make sure that I call that out specifically. And the merge functionality is there in QBO today, and it all works fine. So basically, that should help understand, developers. From what I've heard from developers in the past, right, is that the merge is one place where they have a lot of problem writing code for, and I hope that Webhook solves a lot of complexity there.
Got it. Interesting. Shyla, it looks like you are into the meeting now properly, so if you want to unmute, you can definitely jump in and ask any questions you might have.
Thanks, David. Hi, Vishal.
Hey.
Hi. Actually, I wanted to ask you that we don't want to use the SDK, but right now how we are consuming your APIs is like we do the OAuth 2 authentication, and then we send a request to like invoices and bills, and we just fetch the data using the OAuth 2 access code. So can we do the same with webhooks? We want to implement the same OAuth 2 procedure, and then we want to include this webhooks feature as part of this implementation. So can we do this? And if yes, is there any sample that we can look at? Or I know you walked us through the SDK sample, but is there anything for OAuth 2 for webhooks?
Yeah, so I do want to clarify what you meant was OAuth 1, because today we only support OAuth 1. So all your integration is using OAuth 1 today. And to be very honest, there is nothing related to OAuth 1 per se for webhooks, because what happens is once you have an endpoint running on your app, right, the callback endpoint, all you need to do is put that endpoint in the developer portal, and then the verifier code that is generated, you take that verifier to code and put it in your code to validate the request that is coming onto your endpoint. So technically there is nothing for OAuth 1 that you need to do, or you don't need to use the SDK or anything. You can keep all your code as is, and just integrate with Webhooks directly. What I would also recommend you to do is look at our developer portal documentation. So let me just quickly go to that. So we have a Webhooks guide, and this guide basically it lists out everything, and just follow this guide, and you should have absolutely no problem integrating without the SDK. The sample that we have right now, it uses the SDK only for making API calls to QuickBooks Online. Other than that, it doesn't use anything else specific to webhooks in the sample.
Okay, sure, Vishal, thanks. Also, we need to write the logic for all this merging when we get the merged data and when we get the deleted data. So we should have different logic to consume all this, like outputs, right?
Yeah, so what I would really recommend is, when you get the change notification from Webhook, make a CDC call for that realm, so that you get all the changes with the data, and you use your same logic that you have today. So what my goal is, basically, you should still be able to use your current logic, without changing much of your code if you integrate with Webhook. So you can keep your existing CDC logic. It's just that instead of polling every 5 minutes, just wait for the webhook to come. When the webhook comes, fire your CDC API call, and get the change notification, and keep your existing code as is.
Okay, sure, thanks. So when we start the implementation, if we come across any queries or anything, do we have any contact details that we can connect with, or?
Absolutely, feel free to post in the forums, or go to our support website. Everything is basically under help. You can look in the forum, or ask for a support ticket as well, and we will get back to you as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you, Vishal.
On developer.intuit.com/help, you can create forum posts, you can create support tickets. Another place too is either on the bottom, if it's kind of a general high-level question, probably feel free to ask them right on the blog post itself. So if somebody else gets that blog post, if they're thinking the same thing, they'll be able to see that question and reply to that right away. So feel free to actually use the blog post also.
Sure.
Get another question in from Julius, and this is kind of, I think, a little beyond webhooks a little bit, but I think, Vishal, kind of a decent question that goes across the board. So essentially, he's trying to integrate QuickBooks with some SMS application for a school that's in a remote place. And the internet is very limited. So he's wondering what kind of like offline data is available with QuickBooks Online, or if something timed out, can you resend messages, or can you repoll, like, so, and so basically this is probably a bigger question, like, if I'm trying to send data to QuickBooks Online, if there's no connection to the API, for whatever reason the internet bonked out, how do I handle those timeouts and resending that data?
So, David, there are two things I would like to answer. And the first thing is, I should have called out before, is our retry policy on Webhooks. So if we are talking primarily about webhooks, we do have a retry policy. If your endpoint is down, we retry 3 times, and at the interval of 20 minutes, and then 30 minutes, and then 50 minutes. So we'll retry 3 times, and then after that we will throw away the message. So within webhooks, we do have a retry policy. So if you're in maintenance mode, or if your endpoint is down, you have up till almost 2 hours before we'll throw away the message for you. So that's one part of the answer. The other part of the answer, David, which was around the retry for making call to QuickBooks API itself, right? Which was the other part of the question, if I'm not wrong, David. If you're talking about retry policy just for QuickBooks API, in that scenario, I would say that our SDK supports retry policies where you can configure the SDK to say that, hey, if my call is not going through, retry for 4 times, retry for 3 times, and have that you'll have that retry logic already built in. So you can think of using that.
Thank you. There was another question from Brianne. She wants to know, like, will the notifications come in any type or grouping, or are they all going to be individual notifications?
So, basically, as I said, we aggregate over a 5-minute period, and if there have been changes for a given company, there has been an invoice, customer, or vendor changes, or anything that you're subscribed for that one given company, one notification will list out all the changes. Now, if there were 3 or 4 or 5 companies, you will get a notification per company and all the changes that have happened for that company within that 5-minute period. So it's aggregated per company, and you receive a notification per company.
Per company. Okay, got it. Perfect. Jack, I think you were trying to ask a question. I know you came off on mute for a second. If you want to check back in.
Yeah, this gets back to this whole area of error recovery on this, and assuming that my code is not perfect, and I get a notification and it's crashing my system, is there any real quick way to turn it off?
Real quick way to turn off Webhooks?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, all you need to do is just go to the portal, and let me quickly share my screen.
Yeah, if you could show that, that'd be great to know, Vishal. That's actually that's a really forward-thinking question, Jack. It's actually a really, really good one. It's a very real scenario, right? If you have a bug on your code and things are going wild.
So what you would do really is you'll go to the portal, and where you created the webhooks, you'll just hit the delete icon and delete your webhook, and within 5 minutes, basically it takes up to 5 minutes for the changes to propagate. So within 5 minutes, we'll stop sending you events.
And that's on the app basis, not on the realm basis, correct?
It is on the app base. That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Got it. And Vishal, going back to that screen again.
Okay.
Sorry, you just shared it.
I just want to answer the question there. So basically, for the webhooks that we have today is app-based. So any realm or any company that is attached to your app, you will get your notifications for that. In future, we would introduce realm-based subscription that you can do via API. So you can subscribe for notifications on a per company basis through the API. So that is something that is coming in the future.
So on the developer side with ngrok, obviously if somebody doesn't come in here and delete it, we're going to keep sending to that endpoint, the ngrok endpoint, correct? So as a developer, can I actually just say stop paying attention to ngrok? And then no, my code would be stopped at that point.
Sorry, David, I didn't get your question. Sorry.
Okay, so I just kind of building off of Jack's question, right? Like, because you're kind of telling people, hey, just go delete the webhook entirely, right? But that means I got to create it again, right? Like, can I actually? Is there more of an ability to pause, right, or stop it through the ngrok or through what I'm hosting? Is there another way to possibly stop it without just deleting the webhook entirely?
Yeah, you can bring down your endpoint. I mean, basically, you have your endpoint in your app, so you can just bring down that endpoint, and you should be good to go. But the thing is, we will keep on retrying on our side. So what our recommendation is, is go ahead and delete the webhook so that it's good for both the developer and for us. So that we are not retrying for 2 hours on that endpoint, because once the endpoint goes live again, we will send all the events all again, basically.
Got it. So it sounds like Joe needs to build a play pause button on that, so it's not only a delete option.
Yeah, exactly.
So just off of that we were talking about the pause option, right? So that was something we discussed a while back about. A lot of current webhooks, right, have the ability to just deactivate the webhook, right? So everything remains intact with the endpoint, your interested entities and all that stuff. But yeah, basically you're just pausing it. So that's something that is very, very easy for us to add on our side, and it seems like based off this question that it would be a useful feature to have. So we could definitely
on the roadmap.
Cool. Awesome, perfect. No, this is very exciting, guys. I'm really glad this is finally here. We've been dreaming about this for 2 years, 3 years. Developers have been asking about it. It's big, right? It's just going to make the server load's going to be more efficient. Developers can add new functionality to their apps. Developers can do smarter things. It might start a whole new set of apps that could come onto the platform. So this is awesome. Congratulations, guys, and thank you for coming on the Hangout today for sure. Any closing comments or thoughts?
No, I mean, we would really like to get more developer feedback. As developers are integrating with webhooks, it's fairly new, and we wanna hear their voices. So please do comment on forums or on the blog post and let us know. How did you find integrating with this feature? What is missing? What you'd like to see in future? And how can we best help you? I mean, we really believe that this feature will help increase increase the performance of your app, as well as push the limits of your integration. So we would really like to hear your feedback. So please do post your feedback on the forum or on the blog post.
Maybe in a couple of weeks, maybe 4 to 6 weeks out, now that once developers have a chance to digest this and touch it a little bit, they discover the feature, they've coded some stuff with it. Maybe we'll do another Hangout, possibly you guys can commit to that, where it's more Q&A, right? Where it's just like, troubleshooting, support, all that around the webhooks. I know it's still early, right? It's people have looked at it for a day and a half, right?
Absolutely, David. We would love to come back and talk with our developers again and hear what they have to say about it.
Got it. Again, there's another person that just did a +1 in the comments. They really want to see the be able to retrieve that user ID or knowing who made the change and be able to just watch it at that level.
Yeah, awesome. Definitely cool. On the roadmap.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. And for the rest of you, I'll be doing open office hours next week. And yeah, let's definitely have just a webhook Q&A support type hangout very soon in the future.
Thank you, David. Thank you all. Bye.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.